Hello, everyone. Welcome in for another Morning Drive YouTube edition. Lydia Ko and Jordan Spieth are two stars that haven't shined quite as brightly as of late, but are their fires out for good? It's impossible to believe that's the case when you consider what they did just 4 years ago, both winning 5 times and claiming Player of the Year titles on their respective tours. But let's take a look at how they fared during the 2019 calendar year. Neither player has a victory. Spieth's drought reaching back to the Open in 2017. Spieth does, though, have 5 top 10s compared to Lydia's 4, and they've each missed 3 cuts. So for more on these two struggling stars, let's get you over to Anna Whiteley.
So guys, let's take our picks. Robert Dameron, who do you believe is more likely to come back to the peak of their game sooner?
I think that Jordan Spieth has less distance to travel to get back to as good as he was. I believe Lydia has fallen further. And the main reason I think that she has the farthest to go is the team around her. Jordan's team is the same. Lydia's has changed so much. Jordan gets a lot of support, whereas I go back to what David Ledbetter said about Lydia, and I'll quote him. Her parents have a lot to answer for, a case of unbelievable ignorance. They tell her when to go to bed, what to eat, what to wear, when to practice, and what to practice. I've known David Ledbetter for 30-ish years. He's not a vengeful guy. He's not a petty guy. I know he said this out of frustration because he loves Lydia and he wants her to do well, not anger that she's not working with him anymore. So if that's true at all, that is a really, really tough hill to climb. And then you're talking of the amount of caddies, the amount of clubs, the amount of coaches, whereas Jordan's still in the same as he always was. So I think it's a lot further to come back for Lydia.
These players flew close to the sun. You know, they changed the game. They rewrote the history books in a lot of ways. But I, too, think the turbulence in Lydia's camp makes it harder for her to find solid ground. Guy Wilson, David Ledbetter, Ted O, David Whelan. That's just her coaching roster. Sean Hogan. I missed one. That's 5 in this young player's career. How do you dedicate yourself, commit yourself to one method when if you have a poor couple of months, you're on to the next club or next caddy or next coach? And I think the fact that at least Jordan has, Cameron and has Michael Greller, he has kind of the same camp around him, much like you say, Robert, it seems like he's just closer to figuring things out. I also think there's a cuss about him. He's ornery. And I think that feistiness and fight, the way it helped him in 2015 when he was dominating the game, will also help him climb the mountain again.
Spieth is obviously looking in all directions to try and find his game. But one thing that I found interesting that Lydia Ko said recently is that this year's been a year about finding out more about her game. She said that she's been trying to play more aggressively without really worrying where the ball goes or if the putts drop. What does that tell you about how experimental she's being with her game?
I think the difference between Lydia and Jordan in this conversation is that we saw Lydia at a young teenager. And when you look at her, she's physically changed. She's become more of a woman and less of a, junior golfer in this transition. So I almost feel like I get the comparison, but she not only went through all the changes with equipment and clubs and coaches, but she went through physical maturation. And when you talk about, the criticism of her parents, she was 16, 17 years old when she's playing at the highest level on tour. She can't rent a car. She can't. There's certain things that were different in her environment that she now has learned and had to transition out of and grow up with that other players have never dealt with. And I think that, to me, there was a lot going on with Lydia, but there was going to be a lot going on with Lydia, whether she kept everything the same around her or not.
But didn't we think she'd come out of this, parental, guardianship out of the other side better than she has? Is this a case of ignorance is bliss? A teenager winning on the LPGA? She doesn't know what she's doing. It looks so fun. It looks so easy. And now she knows how the sausage is made. And now she's
100%.
an adult trying to make a living, competing, and it's a different
That's what it feels like. I think if you were to paint a picture, that's exactly what it feels like, is that maybe she didn't know why she was so good. And then all of a sudden now she's trying to figure out, how did I get there to begin with, and trying to put those puzzle pieces back together. Playing automatic golf is certainly what it looked like.
Yes.
And now it looks like I need to figure out how I did that. How do I get that back? Whereas Jordan Spieth, I think, is a different story. And that's why I also agree that I think Jordan Spieth is most likely to get back to where he was, is that he kind of had gone through a lot of that. He was a thinker before we saw success out of Jordan Spieth. You saw how much he would talk and think and do on the golf course. It didn't ever feel automatic, maybe except on the putting green. And then when he did lose that in the 2018 season, we saw him come back in the 2019 and still be second on the PGA Tour. So we've seen, these moments of greatness from Jordan that he has gotten back when he's lost it.
I think there's a problem with Lydia trying to get back to where she was or trying to figure out where she was. And I'm like, I use my phone all the time. I love it. If I went home today and took it apart to see why it works, I'm never going to be able to put it back together ever again. Sometimes I should just be happy that it works well and not worry about it. And that's kind of the tipping point that got Lydia started, I think. They wanted to know, is it the parents? Are they coaching her golf too much? I mean, if that's, yes, she's so young, she needs her parents in her life, but she doesn't need them telling her how to swing. And that was kind of where Ledbetter was going, that he felt like they controlled her golf life too much. And she was already clearly the best in the world, probably on either tour, to be frank.
It's human nature to have something so brilliant and wonderful and question, why is it so brilliant and how is it so brilliant, and start to try and break it down, which seems like that's kind of like the nail of death for so many players out there who have such a good thing going.
golf.
But I think that's golf. But I think I'm in the Jordan Spieth camp as well, looking at the progress that he's made from kicking off his season this year with a tied 8 at the CJ Cup at 9 Bridges, compared to missed cuts and outside the top 50 as he kicked off his 2018 season campaign. There are slight improvements, and you have to think with Jordan Spieth, he was so good, and the same with Lydia Ko, but it has to come back at some point. You have to just tell yourself that it is just a waiting game, and it's not going to be like this forever for Jordan Spieth.
No, and I think it goes back to, I think he's the same person he was, or he's of course changed and matured, but he's more similar of the same person he was when he was successful than Lydia. I think Lydia's had just a lot of transformation in her life and who she is as a player, who she is as a person, that it makes it a little bit more difficult to kind of recapture. And I do want to make a point, because there has been criticism of her parents, the fact that they kept her amateur after she won twice on the LPGA Tour for her own good and for her own, mental and physical development. And I think there's no book on how to deal with a child prodigy. And I think there's a lot of challenges that we probably don't even understand that they've had to deal with.
I think the parental aspect is a big part of the story. Christina Kim was young out there. Her dad used to caddy. They went back and forth. I mean, Jordan is a man who's married now and is on his own and making life decisions, where Lydia is 22. She's still young. Maybe if she finds some mentorship and is a part of a, like we see the Baker, Baker Bay with Jordan and Justin and Ricky. It'd be nice if she had just a group of mentors to take over for the parents, because the parents are just omnipresent, even today.
Yeah, well, they have been knocked down, but let's hope they will both get up again, because they are two of the greatest lights in the game of golf. LT.
Yeah, they definitely are, Anna. We hope to see them back at the top soon. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's conversation. Make sure to subscribe to Golf Channel's YouTube page for more, and tune into Golf Channel A Morning Drive every day for the latest news around the game. We'll see you next time.